Okay, so when it comes to considering data center location, I guess there are any number of factors depending, I suppose, on the type of organization you are and what you're going to be doing. But I guess some of the main ones would be around supply chain and logistics, the necessary skills, and even the sort of financial regime. So just perhaps give us a high level view of the considerations that people tend to look at when they're deciding on where to either locate a data center if they're the folks building it, or where they want to access a data center if they're the users.
Understood. For a data center, to a builder, a data center provider who would be building data center, based on what I've learned in the past and what I've seen, normally they look for two types of supply, not supply. What are the two basic requirements? Normally, they would find a city, a country, a place where there's a power supply. That's always the best one that they would always want to get to have the requirement. And of course, the network connectivity. Why? Because the data center will not function without the power and without the network, because the data center is a home for all data infrastructure for the data to come in and out of a data center. So this is normally one of the major basic requirements for a data center builder to build a data center in a specific country or in a specific metro. And of course, that comes with the land and everything, the environmental impact and so forth and so on. But to make that data center really thrive is you have the power to support the infrastructure, to power the infrastructure, and of course the network connectivity that will allow for the data traffic to come in and out of the data center. So that's the basic one for the data center builders. For the consumers itself, who will place their data center in a data center, pretty much the same, of course, because they want to make sure that the particular data center will be able to fire up and provide, energy or power into their equipment. And of course, the network density. The network density is necessary for them because then that will actually help them to build those business applications that they want to be accessed by the end user and also to deliver this to the end user. So that's normally the basic requirements of both of these builders and the users of the data center itself. Let's say, for example, DE-CIX, right? DE-CIX will actually put our infrastructure to a data center where, of course, it's a technologically advanced data center that will protect our equipment, that will power up our equipment in order for us to support those companies who will connect into our equipment to provide the services that these customers connect to our infrastructure, to make sure that the end user of those will have a good quality of how they will actually then use the internet applications, which were actually impacting the users or the end users of all our customers. So that's, I would think, is the basic requirements on where a data center should be considering to build, and also where to put their infrastructure, in which data center should be putting it in.
And I guess traditionally what you've described is most often found in capital cities or the large financial centers of countries. So that's where a lot of data center infrastructure has been built out, say, historically. But because of the ongoing, I guess, digital, I don't know, call it revolution or the digital age we're now in, there's a lot more infrastructure connectivity being built out, which potentially means that there are a lot more geographical locations where there is the power there, but there may not have been the connectivity required, but there now is. So just your thoughts, I suppose, as to how many more locations are being opened up thanks to the build out of digital infrastructure certainly within Europe and the States, and even, I guess, in Asia Pacific as well.
Yes, of course. So basically, it follows, right? Where the business center, financial district is, that's where mostly all the data centers would also have to, put or build their data, because that's where the financial district is, right? So where the airport hub, where the finance district, like in Frankfurt. Frankfurt, for example, has always been the financial hub, also the airport hub, and also most of the data centers in the past are being located. But now, due to the evolution, to your point, of the digital applications, now all of these cities, like the flop, if you call it that way, in Europe, Frankfurt, London, Amsterdam, and Paris, they're there. But then there are now evolving geographies, like, for example, in our case, the Iberian Peninsula, Lisbon, and Spain, for that matter, or Madrid, have actually evolved already to be the alternative or to complement the flap market. Not, it will never go away. Those will always be there. But then because of the evolution of the business transformation, digital applications, we actually need to service more people in those geographies and cover the perimeters of those geographies, and also to support redundancy, resiliency. So now in the last roughly 5 years, we've been in Spain for roughly 9 years now. And in the last 4 to 5 years, we've seen the growth of all the data centers. In Spain alone, you can see like, more than, I think, 30 plus new data centers are being built year on year. And then currently now there's like almost 1,000 megawatt of IT capacity currently in Spain. And the same in Lisbon. We've seen this, that in Lisbon, now you've seen as there's a new big data center that would actually then complement what we have in Frankfurt or in the FLAP region, but also developing the Iberian Peninsula because of not just the business applications per se, right? Yeah, it will always drive the need for more data centers to be built up. But because of this region as well, as I mentioned earlier, Phil, right? You have to be able to go into a region where there is a demand, there is a need to service those applications and to complement the neighboring countries like the FLAP. But also, those countries are developing their digital infrastructure. They're developing more to make sure that the power availability and the network ecosystem that is needed in that data center will also be available. So we've seen, as I said, Lisbon and Madrid to be now the new, how would you say it, the mega hub. Because they also have now the evolving, the burgeoning, if that's the way you call it, my accent, the burgeoning of all those requirements in infrastructures that the traditional FLAP has, and now it's complementing. And I've seen this in Madrid. We've grown our network capacity there. We've hit the 1 terabit in our business. We call it terabits. We've actually now seeing the growth of our network IX in Madrid to be 1 terabits of traffic, or more than 1 terabits of traffic. So this is actually also a proof that in the Madrid market or in the Iberian Peninsula market, there is now really a growing traffic demand, because we've seen it as the growth of our platform is growing, and the growth of the data centers are growing, and the growth of all the different subsea cables in that region is actually growing, which is now, as I said, complementing the FLAP market. And now they're seeing the business companies now are just seeing not to actually prove anymore that Iberian Peninsula, Portugal, and Spain is the place to be, but rather it's now become like a default, because you've seen AWS growing in the region of Spain. Like, I think recently Microsoft or AWS have actually announced a 2 billion investment in the Zaragoza, in those region of Spain, because now they can see, there is a demand here. And they're actually preparing future demand for cloud applications, for AI application. In the same in Portugal, there is Sines, this like 200 kilometers away from Lisbon. This is a massive data center which actually acquired a power availability of 1 gigawatt of power. And also this is more in Iberian Peninsula. Also, they have this, now everybody's talking about green power, and they have that. So now, as I said, these are all evolution, and which is good. It's good for the economy. It's good for the people. It's good for all of us, because then wherever you go, you have a seamless connectivity in actually accessing all those business applications that you need, both privately and also business-wise.
Okay, you mentioned the submarine cables, and I'm interested in that. I can't remember all of the sort of connections, shall we say, but I know there's been quite a lot of activity. So can you give us just maybe a sort of flavor of how that subsea connectivity has been increasing in recent times, just to make the Iberian Peninsula much more connected? It would be great to
Yeah, this is actually one of the main reasons that we've actually also go to those market, because now you can see that's more than 30 number of subsea cables in the Iberian Peninsula. I believe in Portugal, if I'm not mistaken, roughly 17 or 18 subsea cables, but both of these countries will have at least 30 plus of subsea cables. Probably one of those that you are very, you've heard recently is the Elia link. This is actually a new subsea cables connecting Portugal directly to Fortaleza, Latin America. And of course, in Spain, you probably heard about Maria, connecting actually the east coast of the United States all the way to Bilbao to the north of Spain. So these are all the new subsea cables, and of course in Africa we have the Kiano of the Google. All of those are actually landing in the shores of the Iberian Peninsula. And what does it mean? Those subsea cables would actually say that the Iberian Peninsula is actually connecting 3 different continents. You have the Latin America, you have the North America, and you have Africa, the West Africa, and they're all landing in the shores, because then all of those traffic within those different continents, their entry is the Iberian Peninsula. History-wise, we've always been saying that, the Iberian Peninsula is actually located on the shores of the Mediterranean and the Atlantic, and even Asia for that matter. So now we can see that these are all developing again to support all the evolution of the traffic, right? So because all of this data that comes from the different continent, they have to intersect. They have to actually meet somewhere to actually then terminate and exchange data with one another.
Yeah, and alongside that, if you like, global sort of activity that's
yes,
sort of centering on the Iberian Peninsula, if you like. I think you mentioned as well earlier on that the internal market, if you like, is getting much more, is growing, it's much more vibrant. So that's another reason, if you like, clearly data centers, it doesn't matter sort of to a certain extent where the customer is, they might be local, or they might be other side of the world for various reasons. But one of the big reasons for the growth and the opportunity for data centers is the fact that within the Iberian Peninsula, there's a lot of business growth. Is that correct?
Yes, of course. So you've seen, of course, as I mentioned, the growth of the data center is there, the growth of the subsea cables is coming in there. And of course, the cloud application providers are also going in there. So these are all driven by all the global situations that is happening, for a lack of a better word. So this is all happening. Even, for example, the tourism is happening mostly in all those regions. The power availability is also growing. Investors are also coming into this region. So there's a lot of growth. We've seen the growth of cloud applications. The AI applications are all growing into this region. I think Madrid, for example, I believe they've actually also grown their economy in the last 5 years, and I think they ranked number 5 globally globally in Europe to actually get more of the growth of their economy, which I think almost 20%. So there's really, we can see the growth of those coming into those regions.
And I guess it's fair to say, I think you used the expression, but I'd certainly use it, that it's become something of a regional mega hub. And we've obviously talked about should we say, the global connectivity, the subsea cables, but also alongside that, there's been quite a development of connectivity both within the peninsula. So shall we say, I think people call, you've obviously got your primary centers, which are financial and or the capital cities. And then there are, shall we say, what people call, whether it's fair to call them second tier or whatever, cities being developed. But so there's the internal connectivity on the peninsula, but then there's also some connectivity from there, importantly, to the rest of Europe. So again, perhaps you can just maybe give us a flavor of
yes,
how
for example, we thank you for mentioning that it becomes Iberian Peninsula is now the regional mega hub, because to become a regional mega hub, you have to have a digital hub, which we call, like, Madrid is the digital hub. So we've grown in Madrid in the last 8 years to become a 250 plus connected networks. It's an ecosystem of networks. And in Lisbon, in less than 5 years, we're roughly 100 network connected. And when we come in there, all of those other IXs doing kind of similar business that we have, they're also growing. And what does it mean as a regional hub? So when you have all those subsea cables coming in from the different continents, they will stop there and they will need to actually interconnect with one another. So for example, in the past, people will actually just connect in Lisbon, drop down the subsea cable, or in Bilbao, drop it down there, and they go somewhere else. Because then all the contents are going in Frankfurt, are going in London, in Amsterdam. Now, as you mentioned, now the local ecosystems are there. Like the contents of the world are locally connected. All the local ISPs are connected, especially in Madrid. This is actually a digital hub because then it can serve at least the Iberian Peninsula, like Lisbon or Portugal, to actually, those there is not really connected in Lisbon yet, there are some contents, but they can actually then benefit from the network ecosystem that is available in Madrid. And in Madrid itself, or in Spain itself, we also have presence in Barcelona and Nixval and so forth, and all other cities that can actually benefit from accessing the network ecosystem that we have in Madrid. When we say network ecosystem, it's all those players in the interconnected world, like the cloud providers, you know, the Amazons of the world, the Googles of the world, the contents of the world, the Netflix of the world, the Akamais of the world. These are all providing content to the local ISPs in order to exchange traffic and get or access traffic to one another. So this is how it works. And Iberian Peninsula has that, actually has the network ecosystem in order for the traffic to be in there, because then latency is very important nowadays, right? I always call this that when it's buffering, it's like the wheel of death because it takes forever for you to access an application. You know, when your WhatsApp takes forever, it bothers you in a way. But now we have all of those to make sure that the end user, like you and I, will have the best experience of accessing the internet or any applications that you want. Normally in the past, they all have to go to Frankfurt or to London. But some of them now, locally, they can access it in the network-rich ecosystem of Iberian Peninsula, which both Spain and Portugal, they complement with one another. So Lisbon or Portugal would be the subsea cable hub, if you call it that way. And we have the digital hub of Madrid. You put them together, it becomes a mega hub.
And I'm just checking also there's connectivity from the peninsula to whether it's the flap D markets we talk about or just across Europe. That again is you know, there's a lot of digital infrastructure now, so that there's no, if you like, obstacles to being based there and you know, moving your traffic around elsewhere in Europe.
Yes, of course, if I will be actually designing a network infrastructure, and I think all those companies are very much clever and where they will actually put all their network infrastructure, how will they design, how will they have a solution design for their infrastructure. And that's for us, our goal is for all international companies or regional companies alike to actually see Iberian Peninsula not as something that they will evaluate anymore, but something that is the default because it's actually almost the same as what we have in Frankfurt now or in the Flaps region. So for them, they will actually have to see that, okay, I have all of this digital infrastructure to support my business applications in Iberian Peninsula to support my existing customer and future customers, which is in the African continents, within the southern part of Europe and even Asia. So sometimes this is actually better, like, you know, I will spread a distributed platform in Frankfurt or in Flap in the Iberian Peninsula to serve where I can serve better the customer to actually access and deliver that, you know, applications in my business. So that's actually the beauty of the Iberian Peninsula, because you cannot put it at the center stage like the Flap region, but it has equally the same. That what all we discussed earlier, like power availability, digital infrastructure availability, the Iberian Peninsula is also ready to serve any business companies out there who wants to expand their market.
And sustainability is clearly a big topic for the sector at the moment. A lot of progress has been made, and I guess it might be stating the obvious, but when it comes to renewables, I'm imagining the sunshine in the Iberian Peninsula, you know, solar power is a big plus for the region. Is that accurate? Is there a lot of activity already going on in that aspect?
Of course. I'm actually quite I'm lucky, Phil, because my region is Southern Europe. And Southern Europe is actually the Mediterranean and the Iberian Peninsula, right? So Portugal, Madrid, Spain, what else? Marseille, France, all of those, Athens. And these are actually the part of Southern Europe where there's a lot of sun and wind. So they actually are generating bioenergy. As I mentioned, the place CINES, the START campus, is one of the biggest new data center in Portugal, which actually using bioenergy, as you may call it, because they actually have the sun and also they have the power from the sea itself. They have all the wind energy, they have all the sun energy that can actually power or to generate the organic energy that if you call it. So the Southern Europe can boast both of that, or Iberian Peninsula. They don't have really any power to generate the bioenergy, which actually is good for sustainability, because then they list that they will not be they will not, or they will met the low carbon footprint that most of the European legislations are actually requiring every data center to do so. And Portugal and Spain has that. And that's why, as I said, it supports, that's why you can see the growth of Microsoft, of Google into those regions, putting their massive data center, because they can actually capitalize on the green energy that these two countries are boasting, or can provide.
Yeah, and I suppose if we can summarize, it's fair to say that the traditional approach to data centers, which we've talked about, focusing around the major capital centers, and or financial centers of countries or regions, while that sort of still holds good to a certain extent, there is this massive opportunity and developing out of comparable hubs in other locations where there's plentiful power, sustainability is good, and the connectivity. And just to reiterate, if you like, the Iberian Peninsula is very much front. We know, say, in the Nordics there's quite a lot of activity. You'd say the Iberian Peninsula is sort of equally as active and vibrant as somewhere like that, for example.
Yes. This is, if I summarize it, if I will be asked to actually, which other cities in Europe would I be expanding my business, or would I be actually build a new infrastructure, or build my network infrastructure, I would recommend Southern Europe, because in terms of its strategic location itself, because all the subsea cables from the different continents, they actually converge, is in Southern Europe, in Lisbon. And you have the network ecosystem of Madrid, the digital vibrant ecosystem of Madrid, to exchange traffic with one another, which is very important for the movement of data from A to B. So they have that. They actually have the power availability. They basically have the space that they need. Lisbon and Portugal and Spain have the space that they need to build massive data center. The government has actually make it easy for investors or for data center operators to build their data centers into any cities in Spain. They can easily get power availability. Licensing requirement is also very easy to get in the Iberian Peninsula. The talent. I think the talent between Spain and Portugal is also readily available. I think they can boast more, that they have more universities and schools that actually having all the educated, if you may call it that way, the talent that can support any business to put their infrastructure in a given city in the Iberian Peninsula. They have also logistics when it comes to airport. Madrid hub can cater millions and millions of passengers in a given year, which the flap market can do when it comes to logistics of data, not just data and people, but also in terms of trade. They also have that. The top Fortune 500, for example, is located in Madrid. For the top 500, they have operations in Spain. So I think all of those flavors that is needed for a company to thrive, to make sure their infrastructure is protected, is ready, that they can actually serve their customers and expand their business to get more customers, is readily available in the Iberian Peninsula in all aspects, digital wise, data center wise, power wise, talent wise. They have all of that to offer to any company.
Okay, you make a compelling case for the Iberian Peninsula, but it's been great to chat to you, Theresa, and thanks for sharing the insights into what's going on there and thoughts about the data center industry more generally. So really appreciate your time. Thanks again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Phil. Appreciate it. I hope it was informative to
Yeah,
you.
no, fantastic. Thanks again.
Thank you.